Welcome again, participants, to this MOOC course on climate change vulnerability and adaptation. I am Shahab Fazal, faculty in the Department of Geography at Aligarh Muslim University. In our previous discussion, I explained the distinction between climate and weather, and also I touched upon the climate change, the phenomena of climate change. I also talked about the significance of atmosphere and how it is helping life over the earth, the existence of humans, flora, fauna, in fact, everything over the earth. And due to this climate change, everything is under threat. So, in this session, moving ahead, we would learn the phenomena of climate change a little deeper and its various dimensions. As you now know, that climate is the aggregated pattern of weather. And climate change is a long-term change in the average weather patterns that define Earth's local, regional, or global climates. Now, for a layman to picture and understand climate change is a little difficult, as it is complex and dynamic. Dynamic in the sense that with time, it gets changes. Naturally also, we discussed that naturally also there are some changes which do happen. But this climate change is human induced and very rapid. And as I highlighted, this term of climate, it is the long-term changes. So to comprehend, I would say some decades ago, the population was slowly increasing. The activities were more of subsistence in nature, meaning less consumption, and utilization of resources were also quite less. And thus, the human impacts on natural environment were very middling, very less. But modern day, if you just look around, you would find that the population is increasing rapidly. In last 100 years, the population has increased from 1.2 billion to up to 8 billion. So the population has increased significantly over the Earth's surface. And this increase in population, along with technological advancement, the activities of human being over the Earth have become more potent. And all these changes, they have resulted into our surrounding transformed. But to us, it is not visible, or we are not much bothered about it. What do you say? You have heard, you may agree to my explanation of climate change, but not feel it happening. Just think about it. Have you observed any change at whatever location you are joining this course? Have you found that there has been any changes into the climate, or rather even changes to the weather pattern? Even if you have observed it, they might not be so influencing. The impact is not so significant on us. So I would say, take a pause. Think about it, that whether you are observing these kind of changes, which we are debating a lot over the Earth's surface. Everyone is talking about climate change. Is it real? Are you observing it? Think about it. Moving ahead, I would say you might have some answer with your learning from my previous lecture, as well as the general understanding about the climate change phenomena. But still, I would first try to explain the term global warming as to how it is related with climate change. These terms, global warming and climate change, they are sometimes used interchangeably. But global warming refers to the long-term warming of the planet and atmosphere. So global warming is overall temperature increase of the earth, as explained earlier, mainly due to intense human activities. You recall the increased emissions and heat trapping, the discussion which we had in our previous lecture. The evidence is that global temperature in the last 100 years has risen by more than 1 degree centigrade. So if I can differentiate it with climate change, I would say climate change refers to the broader range of changes that are happening to our entire planet, the Earth, which also includes global warming, along with many other changes which we are observing. To name a few, like you might have heard about the rising sea levels, shrinking mountain glaciers, accelerating ice melt in Greenland, Antarctica, and the Arctic regions. To more commonly, the shift in flower and plant blooming times. With increased temperature, the flower and plant blooming times have reduced. It is happening, the plants are maturing early. These are all consequences of warming, which is caused mainly because people over the earth, they are burning excessive fossil fuels, and in other words, putting out enormous amount of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere, which is known for heat trapping. So I would say these emissions of greenhouse gases, they result into heat trap. We are adding heat trapping gases into the air. If I can even further generalize it, I would explain it as Earth as a big house. The global warming and climate change is happening simultaneously in this giant house, as Earth can be considered as a large house, and Earth also has quite big dimension, quite large. It's a planet. Okay. Now, global warming is when the house gets warmer overall. If in a house there are many rooms, the entire house is getting warmer. That is, I can relate with the global warming. Now, climate change, when imagine the different rooms of the house have different temperature. So one room is a little hotter, second one is not so hot, it's warm, another is relatively cold, one may be moist or dripping. Now you replicate it on the earth. You see, Greenland area, Antarctica area, they are very cold. Equatorial areas, they are relatively hot. And tropical areas or Eastern Asian countries, they are very moist and humid. But everywhere, the temperature is increasing. So when we say temperature is increasing, it is the global warming. And when we say climate change, at different locations, they are happening in a different way. So different places are observing different weather. And at long period of time, scientists take minimum of 30-year period time, that is explained as climate change. Now you would have better understanding of how global warming and climate change are happening simultaneously over the Earth's surface. So when global warming is taking place, the entire Earth is warming up. The entire atmosphere is warming up. But its impact is different in different part of the Earth. As I have said, everywhere the temperature is increasing, but at some places which are very cold, relatively cold, the glaciers would be melting. At other regions, the sea level might be rising. So all of them, they are collectively can be said as evidences of climate change. So that is how I am trying to make distinction between global warming and climate change. Now, another question which might come to your mind would be why you are not observing it, these changes which are happening. Simply, I may say that because the climate change is a long time change, as I have said, minimum of 30-year time period. So, in our lifetime span of 70, 60 years, we might say that at the end of our life, that some changes we can observe. But in a short period of time, there won't be any, you cannot observe the changes which are happening over the Earth's surface, because these are weather fluctuations. The climate change is a long period change. But there is another aspect, that naturally this may happen, but our concern in modern day is that it is happening faster than ever before. And the only reason for it is the rapid climate change is due to human activities. These changes, this climate change is only because of human activities. They are human induced. Moreover, if we do not respond effectively, it can be even more pronounced. That's another concern for every human being over the Earth's surface. So I can say with all conviction, and the scientists also suggest, that the climate change is attributed, the modern day climate change is attributed to human activities. The evidence is that during Industrial Revolution in 18th century, fossil fuel coal was started to be used for energy generation, and this phase of Industrial Revolution replaced the human and animal energy. But it has also resulted into more resource production and utilization. Think what resources and how it has become possible. This period with accelerated resource production with mechanical engines resulted in a spike in greenhouse gas emissions. That is again very conclusively scientists have found. In recent time, another phase after World War II, after 1950s onwards, the mode of transport, the individual mode of transport, individual mode of movement, the cars, etc. And that too for many, the increase was so substantial that on one side the population was increasing over the Earth's surface. Another was the prosperity also came because of more resource production and utilization. And that prosperity resulted into developing of economies, and the people with resources, they opted for individual mode of movement. So I was saying the first spike in the greenhouse gas emission was after Industrial Revolution, during the Industrial Revolution it was observed, and the second when the prosperity came after Second World War in 1950s onwards. Another spike in carbon dioxide emission levels have contributed significantly with increased emissions by traffic movement, the cars, etc. If I can just simplify these are only specific examples which I took. But you can understand the population has increased. Their activities have also become gradually more and more intense. And when I say that activities have increased, it means that we consumed more energy and the resultant more emissions, rising pollution. Our activities have also resulted into deforestation. The forest covers have cut down. Our agricultural activities have spread to larger area. The industries, the settlements, the modern day phenomena of urbanization. and many more. All of them, they have resulted into the present state of affairs. Now, just to give fair idea that we are burning many more times more fossil fuels means more heat trapping gases we are releasing into the atmosphere. And the term which I used about the atmosphere, that is, it acts as blanket. So there would be more intense greenhouse effect, as I explained in my previous lecture. So more emission means more heat trapping gases in the atmosphere. So that gradually the temperature is increasing, which would result into global warming. So the scientists suggest that due to global warming, temperature is rising. There is no doubt about it. Very interesting, it is not only the global warming, the temperature is rising. In the last 300 years, some 8 inches of sea level rise have been recorded. 8 inches, that's quite substantial. In the last 100 years, only about 3 inches. The sea level rise have been recorded of 3 inches in last 100 years. 3 inches means the index finger, only this much. This much of rise, but just imagine the size and extent of oceans over the Earth's surface. 1 inch rise, 3 inch rise, only up the height of the index finger. But the size and extent of oceans are enormous. You all know that 70% of the Earth is under ocean water. Now imagine 3 inches only, the height of only index finger. But to such enormous water body, this much increase is also very significant. I can give you another example to explain my argument. Just suppose 3 inch rise in a bucket full of water. If this happens in a bucket, 3 inch rise happens, a little water may spill into your bathroom. But what if a 3 inch water increase in a larger bathtub? The spill would be greater. And if you consider the ocean, the spill would be even more mammoth. It is happening and evident. It is evident. You just look around us. In India, in the Sundarbans, this is happening. The forest and the landmass is going under the water due to this sea level rise. Indonesia, they are shifting their capital Jakarta because the city of Jakarta is little sinking because of this sea level rise. So now you have a fair idea of the enormity of this climate change. So climate change is evident over Earth in form of sea level rise, erratic rainfall. In some areas, we are observing drought condition that is resulting into crop failure. And if I can relate many other aspects of the life, human life over the Earth, you see, when I say erratic rainfall or drought condition or crop failure, it might result into price rise of various commodities. It may also result into inflation, which is more of a economic term. Socially, the loss of livelihood, or it may also result into crimes. So I can relate everything with climate change, and that is why I am saying that this phenomena is very complex, dynamic, but all of them, they are interrelated with each other. And that is why human beings over the Earth's surface, they are so concerned about the climate change. So when Arctic and Antarctica glacier melts due to global warming, this may be the cause of farmer suicide in India. What do you think? Can we link them? You just think about my example earlier. Earth as a large home, and different rooms are observing different situation. In that context, this is a larger climate change phenomena. But the impacts are very varied. And that way we can relate. The glaciers are melting somewhere else. The droughts are taking place somewhere else. The sea level are rising, which has its impact on the coastal locations somewhere else. The erratic rainfall are being observed somewhere else. And all of them, they can be linked to some social economic condition in different part of the earth. So in that context, I would say that farmer suicide can be linked with the climate change, and the climate change is the outcome of, say, glacier melting, which is taking place in Arctic and Antarctica. So that way we can link them. So I'll stop here, but I leave you with an exercise. You link the natural phenomena and their consequences with respect to climate change. Actually, effects of climate change are well documented and growing for Earth's natural environment and human societies. Changes to the climate system include an overall warming trend, changes to precipitation patterns, and more extreme weather conditions. I would say erratic weather. The effect of climate change varying in time, varying in timing also, and location also. Like surface air temperatures over land have also increased at about twice the rate they do over the ocean, causing intense heat waves. These temperatures would stabilize if greenhouse gas emissions were brought under control. So it's all very complex and need better understanding, which during this course I would try to explain, which will not only good for your knowledge, but our living over the earth would be more sensible and sustainable. So thank you for joining my lecture. Happy learning.